Time to go back in time again to my nu metal days. Today we are ranking the albums of Sevendust, and we're starting with Sevendust in 1997. Solid debut from a band that first and foremost I appreciate for really having their own sound, thanks in large part to Lejean Witherspoon's robust, powerful voice.
What a man.
Like, he is easily one of the most talented singers to come out of a scene that was not especially known for that. Dude's got some serious pipes. Notably too, this came out 2 years before the self-titled Slipknot album. Some big tracks for them here like Black and Too Close to Hate. Bitch is a banger. Terminator is a funky groover with some Faith No More sounding influence. Not their best work, songwriting and production is a little bit weak, but a really strong beginning for them. I'm putting it at A tier. Next up is Home in 1999. Now this is where the band really make their statement as a force within nu metal. Once again, Lejean's just got so much power, and I love the alternations between the aggressive harsh vocals and his singing, which is just so captivating. You've got some major classics on here with the somewhat unfortunately titled but always entertaining Waffle, as well as Denial, which were definitely the ones that I remembered the most from back in the day. Also, hello Kristen Ritter of Breaking Bad, I see you in the Denial music video.
I have successfully avoided ever seeing that video for my 31 years on the planet until right this second. Thank you.
Then you've also got Blender at the end with Chino Moreno of Deftones. But really the most notable thing about this album is just how damn consistent it is. Like, even some of my favorite nu metal albums have some filler, but not so much here. This is a fantastic start to finish listen that maybe even the nu metal naysayers out there could find something to enjoy with. So I'm putting it at S tier. Then we have Animosity in 2001. So this album was actually my first introduction to the band, and the one that I listened to probably the most back in the day. Love that album artwork too. It's just very striking and very much gives nostalgia for those early 2000s album covers. There are some really high points like opener TOAB, which is one of my all-time favorite jams from them with those rapid fire vocals. Crucified does a great job of balancing a lot of different elements and maintaining great rhythm and groove. Trust is a solid softer track. Praise, Shine, Beautiful, and Redefine are also highlights. And Angel Sun is a strong closer, even though I like the straight up version a little bit better. A little inconsistent, but my second favorite from them overall. I'm also putting this one at S tier. They followed that up with Seasons in 2003. If I can feel love, yeah. So this is the beginning of a bit of a decline in my opinion. Lejean continues to sound great as always, but a lot of these songs are pretty generic overall. Softer, more commercial approach, which drummer Morgan Rose said was intentional at the time. Also, not sure if it was just the version I listened to on Spotify, but the production feels unfinished. Like, it's overly loud and muddled, the drums sound like absolute ass. Enemy is a standout though, great heavy verses and catchy chorus. Broken is a decent radio single, though still kind of forgettable. Definitely some cringy lyrics, but far from the worst thing ever, but just pretty boring and unmemorable overall, and I consider it to be, for them, one of their worst, so I'm putting it at D tier. Then we have Next in 2005. Why can't you tell me? So Seasons kind of sucked, but they said they felt studio pressure on that one, so I was hoping maybe they'd rally for the follow-up.
Nope.
Hero is a decent opener, calling more back to the stuff on Animosity. Not great, but decent. Lejean sounding great, as always. First album was Sonny Mayo on rhythm guitar after Clint Lowry left. We've got 2 singles here in Ugly and Failure. Ugly kicks off with some cool guitars, but kind of gets corny moving into the chorus, and Failure is just sort of blah. And while the heavier moments like Pieces and Silence are a welcome return, they just don't hit as hard as they did on the earlier material. So I'm putting this one at C tier. Next up is Alpha in 2007. The first album released under Warner's Asylum Records, Sonny Mayo also got to help write this one, and another up and down kind of album. Death Star is a decent enough opener that at least got my foot tapping in its kind of bluesy groove, but then things get kind of boring again with Clueless. I do like the rumbling bass and dark atmosphere of Suffer. This one feels like it could have been on, again, Animosity, but that's followed up by the pretty bland Beg to Differ, Under, and Story of Your Life. Again, not bad, just super underwhelming and nothing I'm going to catch myself humming later on. The sort of spoken rapping on Confessions of Hatred is also pretty corny. Driven and Feed are both solid tracks with some of the more memorable elements and were featured on WWE SmackDown vs. Raw 2008. Aggression has kind of a neat build to it, nice hook on the title track, and Burn is a bit of a catchy head bobber and also the band's longest song to date at just over 9 minutes. Hit Billboard 14, but for me it's another C tier, mostly mediocre. Then we got Chapter 7, Hope and Sorrow in 2008. Passing through this life with so much regret. Lots of mixed bag material here. Inside is a banger opener, but with kind of a milquetoast chorus. Enough is a bit of a foot tapper if a little basic, and Lifeless at least has a decent riff. Hope, notably with Mark Tremonti, is too slow for me, but has an awesome heavy section at the end if you're patient. I do really dig Scapegoat and Contradiction, solid chuggers more in line with the earlier stuff. Alternatively, The Pass is a pass for me. Like, not bad, it's just that a Chris Daughtry duet is not what I want from this band.
Chris Daughtry?
And Prodigal Son feels too much like their own weird take on like a Black Keys song. Straddling the line here between meh and outright lame, so this one is going to kind of the top of D tier. But then we got Cold Day Memory in 2010. Push away with everything you are. I can't take this anymore. Clint Lowry returning on guitar for this album, replacing Sonny Mayo. Strong start with Splinter and Forever, balancing the heaviness and catchiness. Love that kind of tribal drum break on Last Breath. Karma feels like a perfect radio track with some really fun but sparing implementation of the harsh vocals and a banging bridge. Ride Insane and Nowhere are real head bobbers with similar notes. Awesome drumming on The End Is Coming, which again feels like an Animosity track, and then we close strong with the also heavy Strong Arm Broken. A few bland tracks here and there that pull it down a little bit, but overall this was a big step back in the right direction, so I'm putting this at A tier, and notably number 12 on Billboard. Then we got Blackout the Sun in 2013. Now, I was skeptical at first with the softer opening of Faithless, but once it starts moving, this is a great dynamic opener with tons of groove, great riffs, and plenty of twists and turns to break it out of the kind of basic rock song formula they had been falling into. The band described this album as being darker, even directly comparing it to their earlier works, and that comes through big time on tracks like Till Death, which are way more overtly metal than they had been in years. Mountain is a bop, Nobody Wants It has some really sick, almost Meshuggah-esque rhythms and a catchy chorus. Great riff on Dark AM. Murder Bar is a killer closer. Singles Decay and Perfect Picture honestly feel really close to hitting that same feeling as classics like Denial. It loses me a little bit for Cold as War, Got a Feeling in the title track, but outside of that, this is one of their most consistent albums in a long time. I'd say it's even better than the last one, and maybe like my third favorite overall, so I'm putting it in A tier. Then there's Time Travelers and Bonfires in 2014. So just when things were getting heavy again, they dropped this acoustic album with 6 covers of old songs and 6 new ones. It has its moments. Elements of upbeat sugar actually remind me of days in the 90s listening to Dave Matthews Band, and I've always enjoyed hearing acoustic versions of metal songs, so it's the second half that interests me the most. That said, it's hard for me to personally look at this as anything other than something I play once out of curiosity and then probably never again, maybe a song here and there, so I'm still putting it at C tier. Next up is Kill the Flaw in 2015. Another solid kickoff with the decently heavy Thank You, but as we move into Death Dance, it feels clear that we're stepping back into more of a Cold Day Memory vibe with more melody and less metal. There are some cool heavier moments here and there, like on Forget, Torched, and Not Today, but don't expect another Till Death. I also jam pretty hard to the chugging verses on the title track and Silly Beast. Chop is an interesting track with lots of dynamics and some more standout drumming. Peace and Destruction is another highlight, but also like Cold Day Memory, there are a few dinkier songs songs I don't really care for, like Letters and Cease and Desist. Pretty solid overall. I'm going to put it at B tier. Next up is All I See Is War in 2018.
What makes us human becomes a ghost.
Dirty is a strong lead single and opener, definitely gives off that same energy as stuff they used to play in the early 2000s radio. God Bites His Tongue is a pretty solid melodic track. Unforgiven has a nice fake out with these soft synth elements in the intro before Lejean screams in your face alongside the groovy guitars. Nice yin and yang going on here again between the harsh and more drifty elements. Love this one. Love those noisier throwback riffs on Risen and the piano on Moments. More great focus on rhythm with Cheers, Not Original, and Life Deceives You are also among their better, softer tracks in my opinion. And cap it all off with a strong closer in The Truth. I'm going to put this one also at B tier. Then we got Blood and Stone in 2020.
They take away the only thing that matters now.
Now, listening to this one, unfortunately, I feel like everyone but Lejean is kind of phoning it in the songwriting department. Like, there is nothing even remotely interesting about the songwriting of the instrumentation, save for a moment here and there on, like, Against the World, Desperation, and Kill Me. But those last two track names also mostly sum up my thoughts by the end of the album. Again, not terrible, just very bland and kind of monotonous, generic hard rock, lacking any real personality. I have very little to say about this one other than that it's at least better than Seasons, and the Soundgarden cover is welcome. So it's still going to D, but at least a little bit higher up on that. And that brings us to Truth Killer in 2023.
Collect the blood into the scepter. Bury the truth until it's way too late to lose. All the abuse is never ending.
After I Might Let the Devil Win kind of sets the stage with its big moody crescendo, things really get going with the title track. Getting some more Animosity vibes on this one with the deep grooves, infectious rhythms, and alternations of aggression and melody. There's even a China cymbal breakdown towards the end. Same goes for No Revolution and Won't Stop the Bleeding, which was a fast favorite from my very first listen. Everything trends more in their hard rock mode, but definitely at their catchiest and most motivational.
So what do you wanna see? I'm gonna make you believe.
Really a strong first half overall, but unfortunately it kind of loses momentum for me in the second, more slower, kind of melodramatic, sad sounding tracks that feel a bit more generic and interchangeable, but it doesn't slip into the more outright boring territory of some of the lesser releases that I've talked about, so I'm at least much more willing to stick it out through these. And thankfully they rally again at the end for the very bouncy nu metal intro and clanky bass grooves of Love and Hate, and sheer head bob inducing aggression of Fence, which was another instant favorite. So does this reignite that old teenage spark for Sevendust? Not exactly, but I will say I think it's definitely one of their stronger post-2000s records and would very much be welcome on my car radio in a time where new hard rock on the airwaves is few and far between. Solid stuff, I enjoyed it, so I think I'm going to put it at like the top of B tier. Y'all check out this playlist for more new metal related rankings, and let me know down in the comments what is your favorite Sevendust album, how would you rank these differently, and why. But that'll do it for now. Flight of Icarus signing off. I will see you in the trenches.